All right, this is a update video of our wood stove. We first installed this wood stove about 3 months ago. I did a couple videos on it. I did an install video of this wood stove and of this pad that it's sitting on. And we wanted to talk to you guys about how we like it so far. We live in a mobile home. Our mobile home is about 1,000 square feet, and this wood stove is rated at 1,200 square feet, which is perfect, I think, for our home. In the last 3 months, it's taken some time to get used to and trying to figure it out. To be honest, you know, I'm not the one to maintain it. I'm not the one. I have no idea how to even start the thing, to be honest. I chop the wood, I bring the wood in, but then Lorraine, you know what, let's get Lorraine in here. She can tell you.
I'm the one who lights the stove every morning and keeps it going throughout the whole day. Lighting the stove is kind of hard, but I feel like that could be with any stove in general. Like, I've talked to some of my other friends who have wood stoves, and they say that's kind of a trick. You just have to learn how to build a fire. Once I got the hang of that, that's been pretty easy. I feel like the new challenge has been finding wood that is the right size for this stove, because the stove is pretty, the depth of it isn't very deep. It's pretty shallow. So when we purchase firewood, it usually comes in a bigger piece than this, and then Jason will cut it down with a chainsaw or an axe into smaller pieces, like maybe, into something like this size, which will fit in there. But if you know, when you're first lighting a stove, you actually need the smallest pieces and the thinnest pieces, and then work your way up to bigger pieces. The problem, what we're finding, is with pieces like this, is it's just not gonna fit. Because of the size of the stove, we're having to do a whole lot more work with chopping wood. If we had a normal wood stove, we could just put pieces in there like this size. But we have to cut them down, which is fine, we'll cut them down. But we're finding that we have to cut them down even smaller, like this size, to fit in and to get a fire going into our wood stove. So that creates a whole lot more work for us to do, with the problem that we're having with smaller pieces of wood, like this size or smaller, is they burn a whole lot faster. Now, we know about the damper and we can slow down the flame and that sort of thing. But I find that with really tiny pieces of wood, you're constantly having to feed the fire. So I feel like my job is to sit here in the winter time, get a fire going, and then constantly feed it to keep the fire, to keep the temperature at a good range.
Okay, this is our first time using a wood stove ever. So I guess I envisioned you just throw in a log and call it a day, and it'll start and, you know, heat up the house and you're good. You don't have to like really baby it or watch it. And but that doesn't seem like the case. You have to really watch it and keep feeding it, and oh, fire's going out, you got to keep loading it, and it's just like a dance. Another
thing I have to talk about is efficiency. This wood stove will keep you warm. If you're sitting right here, it warms up this room. It will heat up our whole house, we've noticed, if we keep the fire going all night. Yeah. We'll wake up and we're like, wow, the house is really warm.
That's the key.
That's the key. Don't let the fire go out.
You have to keep it going. Keep it going all through the night, the day, and then it'll heat up the whole house. Like, it'll feel nice.
Overall, I have to say that I'm thankful to have a wood stove in our house. Yeah. If we had a larger house, we could accommodate a larger wood stove, which I feel like would be ideal, because then you could put larger pieces of wood in, and the force of hot air coming out would be a lot greater than what it is with this small stove. Another thing that I wanted to mention was, because of, like I mentioned before, that the wood stove was so shallow in depth that we were having to stack the logs. Like, we're having to stack the logs like right on top of each other. And when the fire burns up the first log, this one will tumble over and it will fall against the glass. With the smaller, you have to carefully place it, is what I'm trying to get at. And that's really tricky, because if there's a fire going and it's time to add in another wood to the stove, there's not much room for you just to kind of throw it in. You kind of have to place it right on top and not burn your hands off at the same time. So it's kind of tricky.
So I guess really the only drawback that we think of about this wood stove is that it's small. More work to chop down the wood that you already have.
Yeah, I know some other people were concerned about the records that were nearby, or even having logs on top of this hearth nearby, or even under here. Like, this isn't hot. The records aren't hot. The wall in the back isn't hot. Like, we've had it going all night long and throughout the whole day the next day. But yeah, I don't feel like the records or the board games are in danger, or even some of this wood that's here.
And then since we did install it ourselves, you know, it started pouring rain, and so right away I looked at the ceiling to see if there was any water puddles, but there wasn't. So I think we're pretty good there as far as the install. So I mean, I don't know, I think we're very happy with it. And again, it's really just the small size of wood that we have to put in there is kind of just more work, I guess. But we wanted to share with you just an update video of our wood stove, because I get a lot of questions on it. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe it, share it, and thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.